Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'ahum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this short talk on Hajj and how to perform Hajj. The intention here is to try to make it easy for you when you want to go inshallah there and perform Hajj, since for most people this is only once in a lifetime experience. You will not get to do it again. Actually it's getting more and more difficult, so whoever is able to do it should do it fast. You don't know what will happen later, and therefore if most people are going to do it only once, try to do it right as much as possible. So first of all, why do we perform Hajj? A lot of people annually they take days off their work and they go to Europe on a vacation, or they go to some islands. But here you're going to perform Hajj. Why? Is the view like there is beach? Are there very beautiful green trees? Is the weather nice? None of that actually. But it is the command from Allah Azza wa Jalla. And it is the proclamation of Hajj that was made by Ibrahim alayhi salam. So it is the pillar of Islam, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, وَأَنْ تَحُجَّ الْبَيْتِ, and in the other hadith, وَحِجُّ الْبَيْتِ لِمَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. We have a surah called Surah Al-Hajj. It is Surah 22. And in this surah, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he is the one who made this proclamation. وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا. They will come to you walking. وَعَلَى كُلِّ ضَامِرٍ, and riding. يَأْتِينَ مِنْ كُلِّ فَجٍّ عَمِيقٍ. They will come from every deep root, from every deep valley. This, when Allah Azza wa Jal commanded Ibrahim alayhi salam, there was no one there. Mecca was empty. He himself, Ibrahim alayhi salam, said, رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ. I placed from my progeny, from my family, in a barren valley. No one was there. Now, you look at people, millions, they are going there. Why? That's from Allah Azza wa Jalla. No matter how many times we go there, we still want to go more. Why? Again, no one can explain that. We spend money on going to other places that are beautiful, the weather is nice, it's less crowded, but there, no matter how many times we go, we still want to go more. It is from Allah Azza wa Jalla. The command came in Surah Al-Imran, in Ayah 97. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. That's the command, where Hajj became mandatory. وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ. Due to Allah, from the people, is pilgrimage to the house. For whoever is able to find thereto a way. This condition is for whoever is able to find their way, made it easy for people. Because Hajj is not mandatory if you cannot perform it. Had Allah Azza wa Jal only said, and due to Allah, from people is a pilgrimage to the house, it would have been mandatory on all the 1+ billion Muslims. But Allah made a condition, لِمَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا, for him who can afford a way. We'll talk about that. This is one of the conditions of the Hajj. Based on this ayah, scholars actually differed. Is Hajj mandatory immediately, or it could be performed later? We have in fiqh what we call wajib mudayyaq and wajib muwassa'. Wajib mudayyaq is a wajib that has to be performed immediately. There is no other time. like Ramadan. When Ramadan comes, you cannot choose and say, I will fast Ramadan in the next month. There is only one Ramadan. There is only one day, every day you have to fast. But for instance, when we have prayer, Dhuhr prayer, you have from the Adhan at 1:30 or 1:20 until the Asr, 4:30. So you have 3 hours. All what it takes from you to pray Dhuhr is about 10 minutes in those 3 hours. So that's what we call Wajib Muwassa'. When it comes to Hajj, some scholars said it is Wajib ala al-fawr, immediate. Whenever you can afford performing Hajj, you have to do it. You cannot wait. If you wait, you are blameworthy. According to Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said this wajib, this command is ala tarahi. It could be delayed. But in our time, the wisdom is whether you believe in the opinion of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah or you believe in the opinion of other scholars, the wisdom says you need to do it as soon as possible. Because every year it's getting more and more difficult. And just this year, maybe 2 weeks ago, only 2 weeks ago, I don't know if you know that. By the way, who's going for Hajj from here, from Malaysia this year? You're going. Who is on the waiting list? Have you heard any news? Because unfortunately, I heard that 2 weeks ago, Saudi Arabia reduced the quota for Malaysia. So it's getting even more difficult. Why? Unfortunately, they are mixing politics. Because of the new elections, because of some political views, they reduced the quota. If anything, actually, they should increase it. But this just happened recently. So you don't know. You could have gone, but you didn't. Maybe you will not have a second chance. So try to do it as soon as possible. Imam Shafi rahimahullah, to him, he believes that this ayah was revealed in year 6 of Hijrah. Yet the Prophet ﷺ only performed Hajj in year 10. And therefore, Hajj is not mandatory immediately. The majority of scholars said this ayah was revealed in year 9. And the Prophet ﷺ performed Hajj immediately the next year. Yes, he was able to perform Hajj on year 9, but he sent Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu on his behalf. So the Mecca and the Kaaba would be ready for the Muslims, because there were idols, there were people who are non-Muslims still going there. So, the point here, try to go for Hajj as soon as possible, whenever you can. Now, I'm not sure if that works for you, but if you feel that it's going to take too long, and you can apply from another country, maybe that's the way. I heard that some people, they go to countries where the quota is not high, but it is good enough, and people don't match the quota, like in Europe, for instance. So I don't know if that works. Maybe that would be a way, because you keep waiting, and some people I heard from our students, some of them, their turn will come in year 2027. You don't guarantee. Hajj, yes, you are shocked.
Mine is 47.
47, mashallah, you guarantee to live by then. And even if you are alive, in Islam, the ibadah is either financial, like paying zakat, or physical, like prayer. You don't pay anything, you just stand up and you pray. Hajj requires both. And the physical part is not easy. So you need to perform it when you are strong. It will be crowded. Strong physically, strong mentally. Because even if you think that, yes, I'm still strong physically, but you are old, maybe your immune system is not that strong. And when you meet with all those people, every year they add a new vaccination. You don't know what happens. Most people come back, they are sick. So therefore, try to do it as soon as possible. Hajj, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, jihad la shawkata fi. It is jihad without fighting. Because it is jihad. You need to be patient, you need to spend time, you need to spend money, and there are many things. So remember that. Now, here are the conditions for performing Hajj. And they are 7. The most conditions for ibadah is in Hajj. Why? Because Hajj, as I told you, requires both financial ability and physical ability. Unlike all the other ibadat, where you just have to be Muslim, you have to be adult, reaching the age of puberty, and that's it. No, in Hajj, it's more. Being a Muslim, that's why actually even entering that area is prohibited on non-Muslims. Some non-Muslims object to that and they say, well, why you are discriminating? We're not discriminating. You're more than welcome to go if you want, but accept Islam. There is something you can do. Accept Islam and you can go. Because even Muslims, they have been waiting and they cannot go. So you need to be a Muslim. If you are not Muslim, even if you go, it will not be accepted from you. And alhamdulillah, it's only once in a lifetime. When the Prophet ﷺ told the companions, إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ الْحَجَّ فَحُجُّوا. All Muslims, indeed Allah prescribed Hajj, so perform Hajj. Al-Aqra' ibn Habis, one of the companions, he told the Prophet ﷺ, is it every year? So the Prophet ﷺ kept quiet. The next time also he said, is it every year? And then the Prophet ﷺ said no. And had I said yes, it would have been obligatory. And had it been obligatory, what happens? You wouldn't be able to perform it. Imagine, now once in a lifetime and we are having difficulty. What happens when it is every year? So there is a wisdom from Allah Azza wa Jal behind this. So being a Muslim, reaching the age of puberty, what happens when you have, I don't know if that's possible here actually also, but in some countries, like in Gulf countries, even not now, now it's even difficult, but in the past, all what they needed to do, to drive their cars and go, because they are close by. So they take their family. So if they took their family, like children, and they performed Hajj, they did perform Hajj, yes, they get the reward, yes, but it doesn't count. You have to perform Hajj when you are adult. Also, there is another situation, it doesn't involve us, inshallah, none will be in that situation, but just in case, a brother who loved a sister who is not a Muslim, and they told him you cannot marry her until she is a Muslim. She accepted Islam because they told her she had to. They got married and they applied for Hajj and they went for Hajj. They came back, marriage fell apart, so she left Islam because to begin with she didn't want Islam but she was forced to. Then later she accepted Islam willingly. Not for marriage, not for anything, but she accepted Islam. She has to perform Hajj because Hajj doesn't count for her. She has to repeat it. Sanity. You need to be sane with your faculty intact.
May I ask?
Sure.
For the sister who, that is apostasy, right? Is it because of apostasy?
Because of apostasy, yes. Because it invalidates all the deeds. Being a free person, and this is not an issue in our time, being a free person, but at their time it was a condition. Why? Because when you are a slave, you have a master that you have to answer to, you have to work for, and he has to give you permission. It's not like a few hours going out, it would take days. Actually nowadays, I would say similar to this, being an employee. Because you have to take permission from work and you have to apply beforehand, and because now most packages it's about 1 month to 40 days and they don't give you that much time, especially if you needed something else throughout the year. That's why it's not easy. Some people prepare a few years ahead of time when they know that this is the year, like 2020. So from now, from 2018, they are preparing money and vacation time and all these things. So availability of food and transportation, what we call zad, the provision. Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. There were people who used to go for Hajj and they don't take anything. So people watch them on the road. They are going for Hajj and they ask them, what's your matter? They say, we are the guests of Allah. So where is your provision? They rely on others. So they start becoming beggars. So Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَتَزَوَّدُ. In our time, Zad is the financial ability. It's not really the food that you worry about. Most packages, they come with full board. You have 3 meals a day. But it is the cost itself that you need to worry about. The cost of going there, the cost of the fees and the ticket and all these things. Safety of the road. They stipulated that condition because it wasn't safe at their time. Many people actually, they bid farewell to their families when they go for Hajj, because there is a chance that they wouldn't come back. Now, alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jal made it easy and we just fly there and it is safe. But in the past, it wasn't like that. This is why some of the scholars of Islam, they actually didn't perform Hajj. They lived very far away. Like Ibn Hazm al-Andalusi, rahimahullah. He was in Al-Andalus, in Spain. And to go to Mecca wasn't easy. He didn't go. And that's why in the book of Hajj, he had some opinions that were strange, wrong. Because knowledge is one thing, but practice is another thing. You need to practice. When you are there, you see things different. Being able to walk, that's the physical ability. When Allah Azza wa Jal said, لِمَنْ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا, for him who could afford a way. Being able to afford a way, meaning also being able to walk. In the past 20 years and earlier, we used to see people on wheelchairs and we used to see people carried on some wooden, and that would cause a lot of discomfort for people who, because they take a lot of space and they shove others just so that, even now, imagine you are walking, you're doing tawaf or sa'i, and it is very tight and someone behind you with a wheelchair. Chances are you will return bleeding. So alhamdulillah, finally they stopped that. Just because you want to perform Hajj, it doesn't mean you hurt others. Because it did hurt others. Like for every wheelchair, it takes the space of 3-4 people. There is no space anymore. It's very crowded. So what did they do? They allow people who are handicapped, who have medical condition, but they have a level. They have 1 floor for them. So for the tawaf in particular, there is entrance. So if you try to enter from any place, they wouldn't let you. They tell you to go to that designated place. So that made it easy. Why? Because here is the thing. You cannot do it. You don't have to do it. Someone says, I have the money. And I have the physical ability. And I meet all these conditions. But every time I apply, I cannot get approved. There are other conditions beyond my ability. Actually, I was one of them. Syrians, for a few years, they were not allowed to go. The only place, like if you are here in Malaysia, you cannot apply. You have to apply from only one place, from Turkey. Because of the political situation in Syria, because of the war, the revolution, there is no ministry, Islamic ministry or representation of the Saudi embassy there. So they handed over the Hajj affairs for Syrians to a committee which is there in Turkey. So I had to apply for residency there. I had to go to Turkey first. Once I got it, then I was able to apply. And then I got approved. So if someone who lives here, and that's the case with many people actually. Some brothers here, they say, if I want to perform Hajj, I can skip the waiting line, but I have to pay roughly about 100,000 or 80,000. I don't have that kind of money. So for you, Hajj is not mandatory. You tried your best. What else can you do? As I told you, my suggestion, if you can do it from another country, then try that. Maybe this works. You travel like this time in Shawwal, You go to some European country and you apply from there, and if it works, you ask people first, you don't want to, or you just go there, you're going there anyways for a vacation, and from there you go for Hajj. Because actually this is what happened to me 2 years ago. I was giving exactly the same talk about Hajj. And I was telling people about Hajj. And I was saying, Ya Allah, I hope that I go. I was realizing that I'm not going because the names were already announced. Long time, from Ramadan, they are announced. But it just happened that I went to Turkey and they told me that your name is there. You have to apply. And I had only 1 day, and subhanAllah, it just happened quickly. So when Allah wills, it will be easy. And sometimes no matter how much you try, so you just try, that's all. Don't feel bad. You don't have to borrow money. You don't have, I mean, yes, if you are borrowing money to buy a TV, if you are borrowing money to go somewhere, then you borrow money also to go for Hajj, yes. But generally speaking, you don't have to do this. Some people actually take advantage of that. In Mecca, they used to do this. They say, we are in need of money, we are Abir Sabil, Ibn Sabil, we deserve zakah. From the beginning, if you were in need, why you came here? You have to be able to afford it. Now, another condition. Now, you may meet all these conditions, but here is another thing. You are a female, and you don't have any male to go with you. In the past, also that was a hurdle. You couldn't do it. Now, the Saudi embassy is easing this condition. They used to stipulate that you have to be above 45 or you have to be with a group of women. Now I heard that with the new Crown Prince, it's easier. I'm not sure. So, generally speaking, can a woman perform Hajj without any male relative present, husband or father or brother? Scholars differ. And according to Imam Shafi'i and Imam Malik, it's not a condition. According to other scholars, Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Ahmad, yes, it is a condition. And their disagreement is not based on Hajj in particular. Actually, their disagreement stems from the disagreement on traveling, generally speaking, for women. Whether it is permissible for a woman to travel alone or no. The Imam Malik and Imam Shafi'i, both of them said that actually what the Prophet ﷺ meant with the restrictions about a woman traveling is the safety of the road. As long as the road is safe, as long as there is no danger of her being alone, then she is permitted to travel. And in our time, most likely this is the case. In our time, so my advice when a sister asks, well, I don't have any relative, and I'm not married, or my husband died, or whatever, but I applied for Hajj and my turn came. If I skip it now or I pass it, then most likely I wouldn't get it again. So can I go? I would say yes. If you can, then yes. Now, you decided to go for Hajj and you want to know what should you do? What are the acts of Hajj? There are 3 types of Hajj. Hajj Ifrad, Ifrad meaning singular. You perform Hajj only. Hajj Qiran, joining. You join Umrah and Hajj. And Hajj Tamattu. You perform Umrah and Hajj. It's similar to Qiran, but the only difference is in Tamattu, you terminate your Ihram. And this is what most people choose. Again, who's going this year, inshallah, for Hajj? Did you choose a package? Like this one? Did they ask you or no? No. Okay. Because usually you should tell, or they should ask you for one reason. Hajj Tamattu, you have to sacrifice. So that costs Little bit more, it's not a lot now anyways, because the packages are expensive, so adding 500 would not be making that much difference. When you go for Hajj Ifrad, you're only performing Hajj. And that's what the companions recommended. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman and Ali, radiallahu anhum. They recommended that people go only for Hajj, meaning they don't perform Umrah. Why? They didn't want people to go only one time, just to perform Hajj and Umrah and that's it. They wanted the house of Allah to be always inhabited. But in our time, that's not the case because it is actually inhabited all the time. Their reasoning behind that is that when you go for Hajj and Umrah, there is no reason for you to go again. But when you go for Hajj only, you want to go again to perform Umrah. And people don't go at the same time for Umrah. So people would go frequently. That's why they recommended it. But the companions actually at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they looked what the Prophet ﷺ himself performed. And he performed Qiran. He performed Umrah and Hajj. But without terminating the Ihram. And that's not easy. Some groups are starting flying actually. Today is the last day of Shawwal. Today is the 29th. Maybe tomorrow is the 30th, maybe tomorrow is the 1st of Dhul Qa'dah. So some groups are already starting traveling. So you have about 40 days. Those 40 days you are in the state of Ihram, that's not easy. It's very difficult. But the Prophet ﷺ, that's what he performed. So the companions went along with that. However, he commanded them from Allah to terminate their Ihram. So they made it what? Tamattu'. And that's what most groups now do. They announce that we are doing Tamattu'. The difference is what? You're going there. Everyone is going there. The difference is when you are going for Hajj Ifrad, you don't have to perform Umrah. So it is recommended for you to perform Tawaf whenever. Whether it is the 5th of Dhul Qa'dah, it is the 5th of Dhul Hajjah, whatever it is, you don't have to perform Tawaf. It is only Sunnah. But they do it anyways. However, when you go for Tamattu', you have to, because you have to perform Umrah. And in Umrah, you have to do Tawaf and you have to do Sa'i. So, if you went for Ifrad, only Hajj Ifrad, you went there and the Kaaba, the masjid, was not that crowded. So you were able to perform Tawaf. Most people, that's what we do. Since we did Tawaf, we didn't have to do it, but we did it anyways. We can do the Sa'i, which is supposed to be later. We can do the Sa'i since we did Tawaf. Sa'i can only be done after Tawaf, not before. You cannot do it backwards. So since you did Tawaf, which is Sunnah, you can do the Sa'i, which is a pillar. So on the day of Eid, you don't have to do the Sa'i again. You are left only with Tawaf. Tawaf al-Ifada, which is the pillar. That's an option for people who go with Hajj al-Ifrad. Most people who go late, and this, it doesn't apply here because most groups, they go very early. But most groups from the Gulf countries, they go there on the 5th of the Hijjah. So it's only a short time anyways. So many of them go for Hajj al-Ifrad. Hajj Qiran, again, most people don't do it because you have to stay in the state of Ihram and you have to sacrifice. You have to have the Sa'i with you. So you need to have sacrificial animals with you. From here, it's not an option. You cannot take them on plane or by a boat unless you own your yacht. Or from there, from the Ihram, from the Miqat, you can also purchase and take them with you. That's an option also. But most people go for Tamattu'. Tamattu', what does it mean? Tamatta'a, that's the term that is used. Literally to enjoy. You are enjoying this time between the time of your arrival to Mecca until the time of performing the Hajj on the 8th or the 9th of the Hijjah. You are enjoying that time of 30 days or 20 days or 10 days without Ihram. To do that, when you arrive, whether it is next week or the week after or 1 week before Dhul Hijjah, you do Umrah. You do Tawaf, you do Sa'i, and then you terminate your Ihram.
So that's my question. So for that,
Yeah.
maybe make a niyyah
Yeah.
process.
The niyyah has to be made when you perform the Ihram, once you arrive.
So Ihram for Umrah or Hajj?
Okay. If you are going for the tamattu', you make the niyyah for the umrah. Because you are performing umrah. Labbaika umrah. If you are going for qiran, you have to declare labbaika umrah fi hajj. Umrah in hajj. If you are going for hajj only, you say labbaik Allahumma hajj. So, you did the umrah, which takes few hours only, sometimes a little bit more depending on the crowds, sometimes less than an hour. So you did the tawaf, you did the sa'i, you terminated your ihram. You are allowed to do everything, as if you are not there. So, because of that, you are liable for the sacrificial animal. Usually they distribute coupons, you purchase them, and they do it on your behalf. What happens then? You are wearing your normal clothes, you're not in the state of ihram, you are in your hotel or in your room, whether it is in Aziziyah or around the haram, until the 8th or the 9th of the Hijjah. Most likely until the 8th. The 8th is called Yawm al-Tarwiyah. We will come to it, Yawm al-Tarwiyah. On the 8th, they tell you, it is time now to start your ihram again, from where you are. Now, when you start the ihram again, you start it with the intention of what? Hajj. Because you did the umrah.
Yes. Can you repeat? You said sacrificial animal after umrah? After performing umrah?
You are liable for the sacrificial animal, but it will be done on the day of Eid.
I see. Okay.
You pay for that, and it will be done on the day of Eid. Even if you couldn't sacrifice, there is an alternative. I'll come to it, inshallah. I will explain. But once Hajj comes, now you declare your intention for Hajj. So you did Umrah and you did Hajj. And then we will talk about the actions of Hajj. So for now, I hope the three types, I'm only talking about the three types, are clear. Ifrad, Tamattu' and Qiran. So you need to know which one you're going for. You're going for Ifrad, you're going for Qiran, or you're going for Tamattu'. It used to be luxury for people who were able to choose more than one.
For the Quran, do you physically have to carry the animal?
Not from here, but when you perform the ihram. When you perform the ihram, the animals, they have to be with you. Now, there is an opinion says you just purchase them from there in Mecca, which is not easy, but you just purchase coupons, they represent the number of animals or one or whatever. The Prophet ﷺ from Medina, he took with him 100 camels. He sacrificed 100 camels. So, once you enter into Hajj, 4 essential actions, pillars. Without one of them, the Hajj won't be valid. The first one is the Ihram. You cannot perform Hajj without Ihram. The second one is standing in Arafah. The third one is Tawaf al-Ifada or Tawaf al-Ziyarah. When is that? That's on the day of Eid. So if you say, well, I did perform Tawaf when I arrived, that was the 1st of the Hijjah, or that was the 20th of the Qa'dah, it doesn't count as Tawaf al-Ziyarah. That only counts as either Tawaf Sunnah or Tawaf for Umrah, because you are doing Tamattu'. Tawaf, the pillar of Hajj, will be done on the day of Eid. Could be delayed a few days, but that's the time of it, the day of Eid. And after it, the sa'i between As-Safa and Al-Marwa. Those are the 4 pillars of Hajj. Missing one of them, meaning your Hajj is incomplete, and it has to be redone.
Entering into Ihram requires for men to be actually in Ihram clothing. and wait here. Oh, you know.
So we start with the ihram, which is the first pillar. It is a pillar to have ihram. With that pillar, there are two conditions: the time and the place. The time, which is already fulfilled once Ramadan is over. That's the time of Hajj starts. Someone said, I want to perform Hajj. And he went now. That's accepted. Someone said, I want to perform Hajj, and he went on the 25th of Ramadan. And he made the intention of Ihram and he made the intention of Hajj. No, that's before time. Just like when you pray before time. The time of Hajj starts once Ramadan is over. Because the months of Hajj are Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah and Dhul Hijjah. So any time of them, you can make the intention for Hajj. That's the time. The place, you have to perform the Ihram from those places. What are those places? There is one place for the people of Medina. Abya Ali or Dhul Hulayfa. For people of Asham, Al-Juhfa. Now most people, they don't perform from there, they go to Rajab. Al-Juhfa is deserted place, it's empty. For people of Najd, from the region of the Gulf countries and those who are coming from east, that is Qarn al-Manazil, near Al-Ta'if. That's the closest one. The people of Yemen, Yalamlam, and then the final one for the people of Iraq, Dhatu Irq. The Prophet ﷺ, he appointed those places where you cannot cross them without performing the Ihram. You crossed them without performing the Ihram, you performed the Ihram, so you did the pillar. But you did it from a different place, so you are liable for sacrifice. These are the places. This is Mecca. This is Abyar Ali, that's near Medina. This is Rabigh, near Al-Juhfa. That's where people from Asham, they perform the Ihram. Yalamlam, or As-Sa'diyah, it's called. As-Sayl Kabir for people of Najd, the Gulf countries, all the Gulf countries here, they perform it from here, near Al-Ta'if, As-Sayl Kabir or Qarn al-Manazil. And then that Irq for people from Iraq. This is another map. It shows. Now, most people, especially from here, what will be their miqat? Because you are flying. You are flying. Now, I don't know, are you flying to Jeddah first or to Medina first? So, if you are going to Medina, you see this is Medina. From Medina, because you stayed there, from Medina you're going to come to Mecca directly. And therefore, your miqat will be here. Even though you're coming from Malaysia, but you went there first, because the Prophet ﷺ said, Hunna la hunna. Those places for the people who are coming for Hajj. وَلِمَنْ أَتَى عَلَيْهِنَّ مِنْ غَيْرِ أَهْلِهِنَّ. And they are the places for people from a different place who came to that place. We're not from Medina, but we went there first, so we performed Ihram from Medina. So that's the miqat for people of Medina, the farthest one. Because between Medina and Mecca, roughly 420 kilometers. Now, the rest, you are flying over and you're coming to Jeddah. As you see here, Jeddah, to most scholars, it is inside, within the miqat. So therefore, you cannot land and you didn't perform Ihram yet. There is an opinion actually says no, Jeddah is miqat. You arrive Jeddah and you do miqat there. I don't want to confuse you. I mean, the easiest way, just go with the majority because that's what most groups do. They make the announcement. When you are in the plane, they say that we are now coming to the miqat. So you should be ready. And the ihram, here is the thing. The ihram is not just by the clothes. The ihram is by the intention, with your intention. Now, I can take off my clothes and put on 2 towels. I'm not in the state of ihram. So you say, I want to prepare myself from here. From Kuala Lumpur, I will change my clothes. That's fine. But the ihram, you do it once you are parallel to the miqat. That's the sunnah. When you come across the miqat, that's when you perform the ihram with your intention. Now, there are requirements for ihram. First, as I told you, the time and the place. This is the time. We already started the time. And the place, these are the places. And for us, most of us, the place would be the plane. And you need to be ready, because if you are relying on entering the toilet in the plane, then it will be chaotic, because you have 300 passengers and everyone wants to enter. You will wait, and more probably you will land and you didn't do it. So if you want to do it beforehand.
Which is actually the mikniya? I mean, while crossing one of the straight line or somewhere else, or approaching Jeddah?
When they are flying over, when they are flying over, they come from Malaysia here, they do the turn. So when you are turning, almost here, it's just few minutes before landing. Or sometimes half an hour if they are making a circle. That's when they are parallel. Now, if you are coming from here, most likely you are coming by bus. So they tell the passengers, we are stopping, everybody goes down, you go to pray in the masjid. And it is recommended to perform 2 rak'ah. You take a shower and you perform 2 rak'ah. Even with this, still you're not in the state of ihram, because you didn't declare the intention. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is to declare the intention when you are already moving. So when everybody comes back to the bus and the bus starts moving, that's when you make the intention. You already prayed, you already performed the shower, you already put on your clothes of ihram, but once the bus starts moving, that's the sunnah, you make the intention for Umrah or Hajj. Now if you are flying, then once they say you are ready also, you got yourself ready, you change your clothes, you had the shower if you could, you are waiting. So once they say we are passing the miqat now, you make the intention. Most people, especially for men, now women it's different, because their clothes, they don't need to change them, but for men, you cannot wear anything underneath the towel. No underwear, no nothing. So it has to be only the 2 towels. Most people, that's what they do. And this is not correct. You show your right shoulder once you start the tawaf, not when you perform the ihram. When you perform the ihram, that's how it should be. It's covering. Why? Because at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he recommended the companions to show their shoulders when they started the tawaf, so the kuffar of Quraysh would see that they are still strong. Because the rumor was that Medina weakened them. And it became sunnah after that. Everyone who performs ihram, it is sunnah. That's what is called al-diba'. Al-diba' meaning you show the right shoulder. So you put the ihram underneath and you do it like that. But that's only when you perform the tawaf. When you make the ihram, you just cover yourself like this. Now another thing in wearing these clothes, because some people, they have it buttoned and with clips. Now, what's the difference between this and wearing a shirt? I will talk about it. So, for crossing those places that I showed you, without performing the ihram, then there is a sacrifice. Why? Because you violated a wajib. Wajib is what? You had to perform the ihram from the location, and you didn't. You crossed it. But what if you were able to come back? You said, okay, I will go back. You go back, you perform the ihram, there is nothing on you. What if someone, now this does not apply to us, but what if someone lives within that circle? Because that area is big. Like he's only 200 kilometers from Mecca. He's not 400 kilometers. He's nearer than the miqat.
His house.
Then from his house. Just like the people of Mecca. People of Mecca, when they perform Hajj, they don't have to go anywhere from their houses. And that's why you become like the people of Mecca when you go there, when you already performed Umrah. They tell you it's time, it's the 8th of the Hijjah or it is the 9th of the Hijjah. So from the hotel, from your room, you make the intention for the Hajj. One exception to all of them, again this doesn't apply to us, when someone frequently goes. We have some students who are pilots, and if they have weekly trip and he lands in Jeddah, since let's say he is within the miqat according to the opinion of the majority, and the Prophet ﷺ said whoever comes across the miqat has to perform ihram. So does he have to perform ihram? No, he's not even going there. But what if you are going there like the drivers? Even the drivers, scholars in general agreed that you don't need to perform ihram. You go every day. There are bus drivers, taxi drivers, they pick people from Mecca to Medina, vice versa. They are crossing the miqat. Every time they cross the miqat, do they have to perform ihram? No. Only when they want to perform Hajj or Umrah. لمن أراد الحج والعمرة. For him who wants to perform Hajj or Umrah. So if you go frequently, you don't have to.